Now, Johnny Depp has said he feels at peace after winning his libel case against his ex-wife Amber Heard, following her claims in an article that she was a victim of domestic abuse. He's been awarded more than $10 million in damages, while Ms. Heard was awarded $2 million for winning parts of her libel case against him. But domestic abuse campaigners say they're concerned the verdicts could send the wrong message to victims. Let's bring in Dr. Marcia Scott, the Chief Executive of charity Scottish Women's Aid, and Laura Richards, a criminal behavioural analyst, former New Scotland Yard, and an international expert on domestic violence and coercive control. It's good to have you both with us this afternoon. Thank you. Marcia, first of all, just give us your reaction to the verdict.
Well, I don't really have a comment on the case specifically. I think what most concerns us is that it sort of feeds a culture of disbelief that is probably the single biggest barrier to women getting help when they need it, women and children needing help when they need it, and which we find really unfortunate. And I suppose it's worth reminding people that Depp lost the case in the UK, but the most important message from us is that our support's available either locally at your local women's aid, or if you're being triggered by all of this discussion, or you're worried about whether you should report or not, we really encourage people to call our helpline, which is 24/7, and the number is 0800 027 1234.
And Marcia, although it's one case, it did have kind of global coverage, didn't it? Do you think this case could have a bearing on future domestic abuse victims in Scotland?
Well, as I said before, it's really about whether we create a culture in Scotland of believing victims and of setting it up so that they are safe and confident that the system's going to protect them when they report. And I can't help but feel that the way this case was covered will have a chilling effect on women. And I suppose what we really want to say is this was one case, a very anomalous case. It's very, very much, in U.S. law, and that the women in Scotland should know that that support's available for them here.
Well, talking about the law, Laura, it was interesting getting messages from people last night saying Johnny Depp's won, I think. Do you think people will confuse that Mr. Depp appears to have lost in the UK courts but won in the US judicial system? Oh, are you with us, Laura? Sorry, can you hear me okay? Hello, Laura? Can you hear me okay? Okay. Okay, we'll go back to Marcia. It's interesting, I think you mentioned it when we're having this type of discussion. Is there the danger that people do get triggered when this is discussed so often? And it's interesting the way it's been talked about on social media as well. People have been calling it, Team Heard and Team Depp. What do you think of that kind of language?
Well, it's not helpful because, historically people have treated domestic abuse as, a private affair, and that despite the fact that children and women were being abused and in some horrible cases killed, somehow this was something that happened, behind closed doors, when in fact we know that it's a really prevalent human rights violation that should be taken that seriously. And the idea that somehow it's a binary, so there's both sides, and that this is about a bad relationship or about two arguments, rather than, in fact, we have a victim, usually survivor, and an abuser. And in Scotland, we've been pretty clear. We've passed the world's gold standard domestic abuse legislation, and we're pretty clear that we will protect women and we will believe them when they come into the system. And unfortunately, because of just the notoriety of this case and the fact that it's social media has picked it up with such enthusiasm, I'm really concerned that that women are getting the wrong message and children are getting the wrong message. But I do think that hopefully, when people actually seek practical help, they will find that nothing really has changed in Scotland.
All right, well, good to speak to you. Thank you. That's Dr. Marsha Scott there. Apologies we lost our other guest, Laura Richards, but we will get back to her at some point.